Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Bold and Blissful Women, where we help you connect with your feminine essence and create the extraordinary life and love you desire. Today, we have Michelle Sands. She's a naturopathic doctor. She helps women have vibrant and healthier lives. I'm super excited to have you here because today's topic is really special. Like, we're going to be talking a lot about how we can deal with stress and just feel better and overall in our bodies. So, like, if you could introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you currently do.
Hi, my name is Michelle Sands, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Nicole, for having me. Today, I just wanted, well, first of all, about myself. I started out as a clinical nutritionist and a personal trainer. I did that for a while, and then I went back to school and I got my degree, a medical degree, as a naturopathic doctor. I started actually medical school as thinking I wanted to be a regular traditional doctor, but I didn't like the whole idea of prescribing drugs for everything
Mm,
and needing everyone to be sick in order for me to help them.
yeah,
So, yeah, the naturopathic way of doing things is more preventative. So, we want people to feel optimal. We don't need them to be diseased in order to help them. And in my practice, I use mostly lifestyle and natural supplementation and bioidentical hormones. So, everything is from the earth and in your lifestyle that I use. And women usually come to me. I work specifically with women now, and women come to me with hormonal issues. Well, they don't know their hormonal issues. They come to me feeling tired, gaining weight, losing their sex drive, feeling a little bit depressed, and they just don't know what it is. And a lot of times it has to do with hormonal imbalances. And those can happen for a variety of reasons, but the top reason is stress. So stress is like what I'm going to talk about today. And when I say stress, I know a lot of people think that stress has to do with in your mind, like mental stress. So we think about stress from work, like our boss is stressing us out, or our mom is stressing us out, or the bills are stressing us out. Things that stress us out. That's what we think of as stress. But stress comes from many different places. Stress can be on your body if you injure yourself. That's a stress. If you eat something that you might be intolerant to or your body cannot process, that is a stress. If you have chemical interactions, like have chemicals in your household, that cleaning products and stuff like that that you're taking in, or you're drinking out of bottles that have EPA, which is a chemical that's used in the processing, those are all stressors on your body. So you can have mental stress, you can have emotional stress, you can have physical stress, and then you can have what I call like a hidden stress. It's a stress that you don't really see, and that's like when you eat something and your body starts attacking it, and it's a stress on your body, or if you have inflammation somewhere inside your body, that's causing a form of stress. Now, stress isn't always bad, though. There's two forms of stress. There's eustress, which is a good stress. Like if you're on the starting line of a race and you want to run fast, you want to win, you feel that little stress, it gives you a little bit of energy, and that's a good stress. If you're doing a presentation for your work, there's a little bit of butterflies in your stomach, like I kind of have them right now, because I'm not used to speaking on video. So that kind of stress, that's a good stress though, because that helps you perform, it helps you do well, and it helps you reach your goals. However, stress in our society today seems to be ongoing. Like those stressors that I just mentioned, those happen and then they're over. Those are what we call acute stressors. And
mm,
acute stress is what the body is meant to deal with. So if you think about back in caveman days that we talk about a lot, that was how our bodies were acclimated to, our bodies were made to kind of perform how they did back in caveman days. And what the stress was then was either running from a bear or not having food, and it was things that were like life threatening. So that was what stress was back in those days. And those are things that happened, and then once the bear was gone, stress was gone. Or once they found food, stress was gone. But today, we seem to have stress going on and on and on and on. We're thinking about our bills, we're thinking about our work, we're worried about our kids, we're worried about finding a date for Saturday night, we're worried about all these things, we're worried about how we look, so all these things, and so it never ends. It's ongoing, ongoing, ongoing. And what that causes in the body is what we call chronic stress and chronic stress related conditions. So do you want me to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
how
can you
the
talk a,
body?
sorry?
I didn't know if you wanted me to get into exactly what happens in your body when you're under stress and
That would
what
be good
that.
to know. That would be good to know. Like, and what are the, what are the things that we should look out for in terms of how do you know that you are experiencing chronic stress? And, because I want to bring this topic to the surface. I mean, sometimes I think that as human beings, we are so used to stress. It's just like, what's a
Yes.
little bit more of stress? What's a little bit like what damage it's going to do, right? But it affects us deeply. So it's
That's
something,
such a great question. That's such a great question because that's so true. Like we are so acclimated to being chronically stressed that we don't even realize that it's something wrong with it. We just figure it's normal.
yeah.
And yeah, so I will talk about things to look out for, but first I just want to give you a little bit of biology, not anything too deep, but basically on top of our kidneys in our abdomen, we have something called adrenal glands. And you may have heard of like the catchphrase adrenal fatigue. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that people talk about a lot on the internet now. So your adrenal glands are what release a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol it's not a bad thing. A lot of people think of cortisol as being a horrible thing because too much of it can lead to fat around your abdomen. And it's just kind of gotten a bad rap, kind of like carbohydrates and fat do. So cortisol helps you wake up in the morning. It helps you react to certain situations like that on that starting line of that race. Cortisol is what gives you that burst of energy. It's also what helps you, just come up and like perform in the moment. But when cortisol is constantly being put out there in the bloodstream, your body doesn't know what to do with it. And so it stores it in fat, and it also creates this anxiety, kind of nervous energy that people don't know what to do with. And a lot of times they'll eat something that they don't need to eat, or they'll start drinking alcohol or doing things like that. But sometimes people just punk out and just like zone out and watch TV and just things to try to take their mind off of life. And that is the opposite of like listening to your body and knowing what's going on. A couple of things to look for is if you're not sleeping well, you could be having issues with stress. If you are having different digestive patterns, if you're not regularly having bowel movements, or if you're having trouble like after you eat feeling gas and bloating, that could be stress. If you're having skin conditions, that's also stress. If your sex drive is lowered, that's definitely stress. It could be stress on many different levels. It could be hormone imbalance, but it could also be the mental stress. Like for women, I think we need to be mentally and physically there for sex, where men might just need to be physically there.
Yeah.
So, it's for women, it definitely affects sex drive like more than anything. So those are a few things to look for. And then also if you start to feel tightness around your shoulders, or you notice that you're not breathing, like you notice that you're just sitting there and you're not breathing. And that's very normal for people to just have that kind of response where they just kind of hold their breath without knowing. So that's a big indicator that you're under stress.
That's really powerful. And are there any less common things that we can look out for? Like very unique things that might.
Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with your digestive system because they're all kind of interrelated. But a lot of chronic conditions, if you have something that you're taking over the counter medication for, like you're getting headaches or you're getting indigestion or gas or reflux, a lot of that is stress. Also, things like rheumatoid arthritis, ADD, in like for women, like vaginal dryness or weight gain around the abdomen, that's a big indicator of stress related problems. So, because what it does is the cortisol is made from the same precursors that your sex hormones are made from. So when you're making cortisol all the time, you're not making the sex hormones that you need to make. So your sex hormones is what kind of gives you almost a vitality to you.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So can you talk about? I know that you were talking about the hormones. We were talking about stress, like in terms of like hormonal imbalance. What hormones should we look out for? What hormones should we know more about? That, and how can we start to balance out, that feeling of feeling too stressed out? Like, what are the hormones that we should know about, and what can we start to do to start to balance it out more?
Well, your hormones, you may not know that they're imbalanced unless you actually measure that. So with my clients, I have them do a lab test, functional lab test that will show them their levels of the cortisol, of their estrogen, of their estriol, testosterone, progesterone, and DHA. And those, the ones besides cortisol that I mentioned, those are all considered your sex hormones.
Okay.
And women as well as men have testosterone, and men have estrogen. It's just in different amounts. So you should have a balance of those hormones, and there should be certain ratios that they are. And your medical practitioner will be able to show you. Now, it's important that you go to a functional medical practitioner to get this done, or a naturopathic doctor such as myself, because if you go to your mainstream doctor, they don't really. The levels, the lab ranges that they look at for being okay are not optimal. So you want to go to someone who's going to help you feel awesome and not just keep you out of menopause, basically. So, yeah, because there's a lot of it's like your sex hormones aren't just for sex and your sex drive. They're for your skin tone. They help with your digestion, they help with your immune system. So it's all, the body is one awesome machine, and all its little departments are related. So your immune system, your detoxification, your digestion, your hormones, and your neurotransmitters are all interrelated. So if you have a problem in one area of that I just mentioned, you'll have a problem in other areas as well.
That's perfect. Thank you. And what do you advise so you can start, like if it is the case that you have the hormonal imbalance, what do you suggest so you can start balancing back again?
The first thing I always suggest is that people, before they go out and start using bioidentical hormones or a whole bunch of supplements, I always go back to the basics and so it's about what you're putting in your body that's positive and what you're putting in your body that's negative, and maximizing the positive and minimizing the negative. Yeah. So you want to get rid of anything that your body doesn't recognize as being a whole food, such as like your packaged and your boxed products. Those are going to have whole food ingredients, but they're also going to have chemical ingredients. So I don't even have my clients count calories, even if they're trying to lose weight. I have them count chemicals. So if you look on the back of a package that you're eating, or you're going to a restaurant and you ask what the ingredients are, most of the times now you're really lucky because you can go online and you can look to see what's in the food, even at restaurants, before you go. So, and when someone's suspecting a hormone imbalance, I ask them to eat at home 5 days a week at least, so that they're not suscepting themselves to things that they don't know about. So you want to limit the chemicals in your food and in your household products. That's like the first thing. And a lot of times that will make a big difference on its own. The other thing you want to do is, as far as exercise is concerned, you want to, if you're exercising a lot right now, you want to kind of pull it back. So a lot of times, exercise is good, right? But too much exercise is actually stressing your body out. So I actually used to run Ironman triathlons and ultra marathons. And after a few years of doing that, I was having symptoms of hormonal imbalances. And when we tested me, we realized that the excessive exercise I was doing was actually causing my hormones to lower. And the reason for that is because when your body is doing, I was running for hours, right, doing these ultra marathons, and my body thought I was running from danger. The primitive mind in your body is thinking I'm running from danger. So the last thing it wants me to do is get pregnant if I have danger. So it lowers my sex hormones and my ability my desire to have sex in the first place, and then my ability to carry a child as well. So
can you expand a little bit on that? That's so interesting. That's a hidden link that I'm sure that most people are not necessarily aware of.
Yeah, it's really interesting because your body is so smart. Your body, it has kind of safety switches where if one thing is wrong, it knows that it can't take care of the other things. For instance, if you go for a run right now, your digestion will slow down so that your body can pump more blood to your muscles. So, and then when you relax, your body's not pumping as much blood to your muscles, and your digestion is better. The same thing goes with your hormones. When I am running for 3 hours, which I don't do anymore and I don't advise, when I'm running for 3 hours, my heart's pumping a lot of blood to my muscles, and then my digestion's shut off. But then also I'm pumping out a lot of that cortisol or adrenaline in my body, which is diverting the byproducts to make sex hormones. So I'm not making as much sex hormones. I actually had the levels of estrogen and testosterone of a 50-year-old woman when I was 26 years old.
Wow.
So, but the good news is, now I'm back to normal and I have a baby. So it's totally reversible, and it's totally reversible without drugs. So that's like the great news. Like right now, like we're talking about stress and we're talking about hormones, and everybody's like, oh my God, I have stress. My hormones are going to be out of whack. But the good news is it's really, really, it's not, I wouldn't say easy to get it back to normal, but it's simple. There's simple steps that you can take. It does take dedication. It does take a little bit of effort on your part. You have to have a little bit of willpower with your diet, and you have to, if you don't exercise at all, you want to get your body moving, do some walking or yoga, but you don't want to overdo it. And then sleep is the other huge part of it. Your body needs sleep to repair, and when you're not sleeping, your body is just naturally under stress. So food, eating clean eating, whole foods, exercising moderately, and then sleeping is huge.
I think that's beautiful. Like for me personally, earlier this year, I wouldn't say it was the first time that I was feeling or having symptoms of stress, because when I was growing up, people would call me Nicole Stress. Didn't like it, like at all. Like I couldn't see, I couldn't see, or I didn't want to see the link, or I thought it was a good thing that I was actually out there doing all these good things. But there was a pattern there. But I did notice earlier this year, because I was going through that process, and I started to experience burnout, and I had to get help, because I would start to sleep at 7 p.m. Like that's not normal for me. And also, I was told the same thing about, cutting down on my exercise, because I was working out super extreme workouts, 1 hour and a half a day. And this person was like, no, right? Like you need to cut it a little bit down.
Yeah.
And that for me was so interesting to grasp, right? And I noticed a difference, because I would work out, I gained weight, I would work out, and then I would only lose 1 pound per month. Right? It didn't matter what I was doing, eating or everything. I was just super stressed out. So I think it's very important to notice these sort of signs that your body tells you. So which brings me to this next topic, right? I just think that connecting with your body is the truth, to know what's going on for you about a situation in general. Can you talk about a little bit of the importance of connecting with your body more?
Yeah, so connecting with your body, or listening to your body and being mindful is something I teach all my clients. For one, being mindful about what you do and how you go about your day and how your body feels is just going to make you a happier, more relaxed person just in general, because you're not fighting against what your natural tendencies are. So, for instance, if you're let's say you want to lose weight and you're on a diet, and the diet's no carbs and all protein and fat. So that's the catch thing right now. Carbs are bad. So, but if your body, it's there's certain people that do great on those diets, and then there's some people that they can't handle that diet. And that's because their body naturally needs more carbohydrates. So if they keep ignoring their body, ignoring the messages that they're sending, saying you need to eat this potato or eat this rice, if you keep ignoring that, you're going to be angry, you're going to be irritable, you're going to be tired, and you're just going to be not a happy person. So that's one way we ignore our body symptoms. The other thing that with food especially is, and it's not anyone's fault, it's a product of our society right now, but a lot of our foods that we have now are just loaded with all of these flavor enhancers and salt and sugar and all these things that it hyper sensitizes our taste buds. So for instance, even apples nowadays they're bred to be sweeter than they used to be. So we get used to that sweet flavor. Just like I often hear people say, I don't like the taste of water because they want to drink more water, but because they need all this flavor all the time. They need these soft drinks and these super sweet juices. And so I think that our taste buds have been just overstimulated to the fact that our bodies can't tell the difference between a piece of fruit and a piece of candy. Like, we just know we want something sweet. But what we need to do is like kind of tone down all the artificial stuff, like I said, and go to just the natural whole foods, and you will start craving what you actually need. There was a study done on sheep where they've needed certain nutrients, but they gave them a choice of whether they wanted, for instance, a rice flour or like another porridge that was not nutrient dense. And they all went to the one that was more nutrient dense because your body innately knows what you need. Like a lot of times your cravings are because you need something. If you crave chocolate, a lot of times it's because you need some magnesium in your diet. So if you just listen to those things that your body is telling you, then it's so much better, easier to get the things that you do need. And then also listening to, are you tired? I know you have all these things planned to do this day, and you plan to do that hour-and-a-half workout that you're doing. But if you're tired that day, your body is telling you it needs rest. And I know our society thinks that rest is lazy, but rest is, your body needs to rejuvenate. Back in in the caveman days when they were tired, they slept. Even if it was a day that they had planned to hunt, they still slept because they knew they needed it. Your body will tell you exactly what you need if you just listen to it.
That's amazing. So you brought up two questions in my mind, right? I'm very curious. So you talked about sugar. What is the exact danger of consuming so much sugar, and what do you do when you recognize, let's say you want something sweet, kind of like you mentioned chocolate, because your body wants more magnesium in your body? That's fine. How can you start to choose the healthier option, or instead of confusing it with just like the sweet option that you have right in front of you?
Well, first of all, when you eat a lot of sugar, you'll crave a lot of sugar. So like the first thing you kind of need to do is just cut it out and just deal with that craving for a little bit, like maybe a couple of days, and then it will go away. So it's just your body, it's a blood sugar hit basically. So when you eat the sugar, your blood sugar rises rapidly, but then it also falls rapidly. So you want your brain saying, I need more sugar because I need more energy. But if you eat stuff that is like more potatoes or vegetables, or even some fruits tend to burn quickly too, kind of. So even though I say fruits and vegetables, I'm more on the vegetable side of it, like things that are more denser carbohydrates. So like, let's say you have a potato, that will spike your blood sugar, but it'll also keep it more steady for a longer period of time. So what I just tell people to try to, if they're trying to cut down on sugar, which the reason why you asked me what is sugar really bad, sugar is not in and of itself is not a horrible thing. It's just the quantity that we eat in our society is absolutely ridiculous. Like, we eat our body weight in sugar every year. So the average person eats like 150 pounds of sugar every year. Whereas back like 100 years ago, people ate maybe 4 pounds of sugar every year. Wow. So that's what we're doing. And our bodies just aren't designed to take in that much sugar. So what we end up doing is our blood sugar raises, and that when your blood sugar raises, there's another hormone called insulin that comes out to kind of, basically when your blood sugar is high, insulin needs to take care of the high blood sugar. Just to put it simply. So when your blood sugar raises, every time you eat sugar, if you're eating sugar all day, drinking sodas, eating candy, your blood sugar is constantly being risen, and then insulin is constantly trying to come out and take care of it. And what happens is, after a while, it just becomes to the point where insulin is just like, it's like if someone's calling you at dinner time, if you have like a telemarketer calling you at dinner time, and they call you one night, you pick up the phone, you're like, no, I'm not interested. Then they call you the next night, you pick up the phone again, but then you're like, oh my God, they keep calling. So the next night when they call, you're just going to be like, I'm not answering the phone. And that's what happens to insulin. It comes to the rescue, at the high blood sugar, and then it just stops. And that's called insulin resistance. So it's being
Why does
resistant.
it occur?
Why does that occur? It's just because because it becomes tired of taking care of you. Your body just burns out. The ability to keep rescuing the sugar just burns out. And with that ends up being diabetes. And along with that becomes all kinds of other issues where you start getting tired all the time, and then you start gaining weight, and it's just a big mess happen. And so that's what sugar does to people. And then sugar also causes inflammation. It raises inflammation in the body. Sugar is actually one of the main reasons for heart disease. It's not cholesterol, it's actually sugar, because that causes inflammation. It causes the weight gain.
So what is the main reason why we crave sugar so much? Like, what are we exactly looking for? Kind of like with the example that you gave about with chocolate.
We're actually looking for pleasure. There's been several studies done showing that sugar has the same effect on our brain as cocaine does, and also of sex. So the pleasure center in your brain doesn't know the difference from eating a piece of candy, having sex, or kissing your husband, or doing a hit of cocaine. So we're just seeking pleasure. So that's a great question, is that if you see yourself craving the sugar, like, you just need to ask yourself, what are you really craving? Are you missing something in your life that you need to fulfill that with that sugar, or food if it's something else, or alcohol? Alcohol is another sugar. Yeah, right. So that's a really powerful question.
Perfect. I love that. So, like, in those cases, you would suggest to go out for the natural route instead of, packing up on a cake or something like that.
Yeah. Well, so there's a couple things there. Like, I do have people keep a food diary, and when I have them keep a food diary, I have them write down what they ate and the quantity, but also how they felt when they ate it and how they felt after they ate it. So a lot of times if you're feeling anxious or depressed or worried, that's when they're eating those sugar items, because they need that pleasure. A lot of times, even when I was in college, when I went to study, I would grab something that was sweet or some kind of snack, because I needed to divert my attention from the task I had, because the amount of work I had to do was a little bit of a stress, and the sugar was like a relaxation or a calming. So people use food to calm themselves.
I love that. Another thing that came up for me was, you were talking about how, carbohydrates work for a person and it may not for another person. So it kind of like goes into this whole topic that, one size does not fit all, Yeah. So how do you start to really know what works for you and what doesn't, right?
Yes, that's a great question. So a lot of times, like, you're exactly right. One diet does not fit all. So it's really disconcerting for a lot of women when maybe their girlfriend or their coworker goes on a specific diet and they come back and they've lost weight and they look beautiful, and then you try that same diet and then it doesn't work for you. And a lot of people take that as like a failure on themselves, whereas it could be just the fact that that diet was not compatible with your body. We all are very much individual. Like, you look different than me, and there's no one else that looks like you. There's no one else that looks like me. And that's our exterior, but our interior is also very different. I mean, it's similar. We all have eyes and nose and mouth and hair. So we all have this similar, but we're all very different. We're like bio-individual. And the same thing is true for your body. So one diet that might work for you, maybe a slightly different one might work for me, or maybe a totally different one will work for me. So the best way for people to figure that out, it's really simple. All you need to do is start with, so there's three main macronutrients. There's fat, carbohydrates, and protein. So whether you're a vegetarian or you're a meat eater, you can do this. Protein sources, for vegetarians would be like beans and nuts and things like that. And then for everybody else, it's, proteins like meats and fish and chicken. So what you want to do is You could start with just like breakfast. So for the first day for breakfast, you want to do like thirds. So 1/3 of your meal would be carbohydrates, 1/3 of your meal would be protein, and the other third would be fat. So most people don't need that much fat, but some people might. So you see how you feel. Like you write down how you felt before you ate, then you eat, and then that meal should satisfy you for about 3 hours. So it should hold you till your next meal. You should not feel like snacking. Now, if you eat that meal and it makes you feel tired, it makes you feel like you're hungry in another hour, that means that proportions are not right for you. Then the next day, you maybe add some more carbohydrates and take away some fat and see how that works for you until you find the right ratio that gives you energy, makes you feel good and able to focus, and also keeps you satisfied for the full 3 hours.
That's perfect.
That's how you feel. And it's not the same for everybody. And it might also change throughout your life. So if you do this like today, and then 5 years from now, you start feeling like you need to snack before your next meal, and you start like, I'm feeling a little bit tired, you might need to do it again, because as your body ages and you go through different experiences in your life and you're in different environments, your needs may be different.
Thank you. I know that it can be very confusing with so many different diets out there, and I know that I've been there. Like, I've had people tell me, this will work for you, or try to impose something on me when my body knows best. And even with workouts.
That's true. But like for diets, like all the ones that work have some very similar things. I mean, most of the diets that are reputable and actually work, they'll tell you to eat whole foods. They'll tell you to limit your sugar and alcohol. They'll tell you to drink water, and they'll tell you to have like grass-fed, good quality foods. So like grass-fed, free-range meats, organic produce. So those are like the same like across the board, whether you're a vegetarian, whether you're paleo, whether you're a Mediterranean diet. It all is high quality whole foods and no junk food and water. Those are like that's like the kind of like the structure of a healthy diet. And then as far as what actual foods ratios are, that's something that you have to find for yourself.
Great, thank you so much. Like I love that. And I wanted to talk about like when you're experiencing a lack of sex drive as a woman, right? What are some common signs for you to look out for to see like if you're experiencing anything in your body, and what can you start to do to balance it out too?
So for women, like you'll know if you don't have a sex drive, but the first thing that I would kind of recommend is before like you go out for a lab test or anything like that, like make sure that you're not stressed, make sure you're sleeping well, and just try to like have like almost like when you have a baby and they have like a bedtime ritual where you give them a bath and you read them a book and then you put them to bed. Like when you want to get intimate with your man, like try to have a little ritual like before that, whether it be earlier in the day that day. Just kind of be kind to yourself. Maybe do something relaxing, like some yoga. Put on a nice outfit, do your makeup, and make yourself feel good and feel relaxed and not stressed. Like don't plan to have your romantic evening on the same day that you have a big presentation at work, because that stressful energy is not going to be conducive to your sex drive. I mean, if you have a very healthy sex drive, it might be, but if you're having a little bit of trouble in that area, you want to kind of give yourself some love that day, and then you'll be able to make love later.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, and then the other thing is like just I want to say like don't put as much emphasis on perfection. I think a lot of people like just have like this feeling like they have to be perfect in everything they do, and that in itself creates a lot of stress. So if you can't do the dishes, it's not like they're going to be there tomorrow. If you don't have the perfect, like house doesn't look perfect, you haven't vacuumed, that like those little things, like I'm not saying don't clean your house, but there's little things that are like some things are just not so important. And like just like letting go of like the perfection a lot of times will help just to relax you. The other thing that for women specifically is just get rid of the diet sodas, get rid of the Weight Watchers meals, get rid of all the chemicals in your food, and you'll notice that like your liver is able to detoxify your body better, and that's going to help you circulate your estrogen better, and you're going to be more vibrant, basically. So, and then if you're still having trouble, then I totally recommend doing a functional lab test because you can see like on paper where your hormones are at. And then you could either work with natural supplementation and some lifestyle changes, or if you need, you can do some bioidentical hormones to help kind of kickstart your hormones back into gear.
So the question that came up for me as you were talking was, let's talk about a time frame in which you're trying to like figure things out on your, or balance it out on your own before you go ahead and go to a doctor. So what's like a normal time frame in which you're already like implementing changes that you would recommend for a person to go and visit a doctor if they're not seeing a change?
Well, it's kind of individual, and it depends on how much it's actually bothering you. I mean, if your sex drive is a problem, and your life isn't going to be as full as it could be. But if you're also experiencing some weight gain, some fatigue, some digestive issues, then you do just want to go, I think, and get the test done, because those are all other symptoms are all indicators of a hormonal imbalance. And then if you're also having the low sex drive, then I mean, it's easily to take care of. You're worth it, and I think that like your life could be so much better if you did take care of those things. So, if you're just the only symptom is a low sex drive, then I would say try with the stress reduction techniques. Try the whole foods first and see. But if you're also experiencing those other symptoms, I would just go straight and get the lab test.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I thought I had to see this, but apparently I didn't. I just realized that I didn't. I was going to ask you about, weight gain, like weight gain and weight loss, right? So let's start with weight loss. What happens when you out of nowhere you lose a lot of weight that you weren't even working out to lose? Like, is that a sign that could do with hormones or not, or like stress in general?
It could, but it's kind of without knowing what else is going on in that person's life, and it's kind of hard to just ballpark that because everybody is so different. If you are losing a lot of weight, it could be a lot of things. It could be a parasite, some kind of microbial problem in your digestive tract. It could be a lot of things. So it's hard to really put a finger on that. But if you are just losing a lot of weight for no reason, I would definitely see somebody.
Great.
Yeah.
And in terms of weight gain, I know that you mentioned earlier in the interview about stress and how it's correlated to stress. So, like, if you have been experienced a lot of weight gain, especially around your abdomen, is there anything that you advise for women to start implementing? Because I think that I once read, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that this is more common, or like weight gain because of stress for women around their abdomen.
Yeah. Yeah, the weight around the abdomen is two different things cause that. One is the stress, the additional cortisol that I talked about earlier, that binds to fat specifically in your abdomen when you have that excess. So stress is definitely an indicator. But also for women, especially as they reach more menopausal age, the estrogen drop actually also causes that extra weight around the midsection, which it doesn't have to happen. Like, menopause doesn't have to be the horrible experience that we hear about all the time. It can actually be a wonderful, like, liberating experience for women if they're able to keep themselves in balance. So it's definitely those two. The weight gain, especially around the midsection, is definitely a hormonal issue.
Right. And what can a person start to do, like, to balance that out? And yeah, I know that you mentioned it's personal.
Yeah. So, like, going back to, again, I'm always going back to lifestyle. So you'll want to, clean up your diet initially. Even if I have a program that I put my initial clients through, and it's actually free. It's called Clean in 15, and it just teaches you how to clean up your diet using baby steps. Because A lot of people live in a very fast-paced world of convenience foods and just, they have to get things done and they have to eat on the go. So to tell them to eat clean and eat all whole foods just right now is the going from nothing, like all or nothing approach. It's very overwhelming for a lot of people. So a lot of times I'll start out with the first day that you're trying to eat clean, just switch your beverages to water. So that's the first thing you do. Don't worry about what you're eating. That first day, you're just going to drink water and you're going to try to drink your body weight in water. So it's more than, I recommend more than the 8 glasses that you hear, 8 ounces, 8 times. I actually recommend your body weight in water because water is going to hydrate you. And when you're hydrated, you're going to process everything better. You're going to digest better. Your blood is going to circulate better. Your hormones are going to circulate better. Everything in your body is going to work better when you're hydrated. And also, a lot of times, fatigue and stress is a result of dehydration. We don't even realize that we walk around dehydrated like 90% of the time. So, yeah, just if you start with drinking water and then the next day maybe cut out processed food, and the next day maybe, try cooking yourself. So it's like just the little baby steps to eating clean. That's definitely a huge thing. And then getting your body moving. I know a lot of us sit down a lot. We work at desk jobs and we work at long hours and we're sitting for a very long period of time. So just getting up out of your chair and moving your body is going to help your body to process a lot of the things that we're putting in us.
I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that about, one step at a time approach. And it's really true because for me personally, whenever I've been asked to do like a whole drastic change in my life, in my nutrition, like I'm always resistant to it. So like even on a mindset level, I'm just very resistant and I don't end up doing, the whole transformation or process for the change. So I do think it's important to go one step at a time and just making it easy for yourself so you don't find ways to sabotage it,
And we're talking here like about stress, and you don't want your new healthy regimen to be causing stress. If you're trying to remember everything you have to do and you're trying to change your whole life and you have children and they're upset because you're taking all the packaged food out of the house, like you have to really kind of baby step it in because you want it, like I said, to be gentle with yourself. And we're all human. And then the other thing to remember is everything I'm saying as far as food and exercise and sleep, think about that as like, that's 80% of the time. Because there's going to be nights when you're up late. There's going to be days when you want to celebrate and have a piece of cake and a glass of wine. And that's fine. Your body is totally made to process things like toxins in your life. Like you're made to process those and get rid of them. But when it's constantly, it's just an overload on your body. So it's not like a death sentence. It's not like you can never go and enjoy a night out with your friends. It's just, you have to, in the beginning, like for the first 30 days, you want to kind of be a little stricter and clean, but then your body will be back to its optimal health and it will be able to process things. It will be able to handle a little bit of stress. Your body is going to be able to work more efficiently once you clean it up. It's just we've been going for so long with overburdening it that it's weakened and it can't just deal with things. So it's not just a complete overhaul where it's not like, I can't live my life now, I'll never have pizza again. It's more of like, a most of the time 80-20 thing.
I love that. And I wanted to ask you one last question. What is the biggest piece of advice that you could give to our viewers today that you have learned in your own personal life around creating a vibrant and healthier life for a woman?
Keeping your promises to yourself. So if you have goals, you have something you want for yourself, and you seek out the steps from somebody, like maybe you don't know how to do it yourself, maybe you find a coach, maybe you find a doctor to help you, but keeping your promise to yourself, you said you wanted that thing, and taking the time to actually do the steps and get that thing that you want because you deserve it. So a lot of times we want to have a certain body or we want to learn a certain skill, and we seek out the people to help us. We learn what we need to do, And then we let ourselves get in the way of ourselves and we don't complete what we want to complete. So I just want to like drill it down that like, if you want something, you can have it. You just need to like trust yourself and keep your promise to yourself. Because if you don't keep your promise to yourself, then it's very hard to keep your promise to anybody else and to fulfill your dreams.
So glad you mentioned that. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday and I mentioned those two exact things.
Oh.
So I love
Yeah,
that
because
you
I'm thinking
mentioned.
about a lot of people doubt themselves because things do get tough. So even like my clients working with me to change their bodies and change their outlook on life, there's times that get tough and you just have to remember like why you're doing what you're doing and know that like it's other people have done it, it's doable and you have help and just stick with it and do it, and then the rewards on the other side are just so grand. And you'll be able to accomplish so much more once you do accomplish that first little thing. You're going to be able to move on to the next thing.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so vital, because it helps you keep going when you know that, hey, I already did this, I promised myself this, and I did it, and I made this promise and I did it too, so I'm not going to give up on myself here, and I'm going to continue. I find it that when you start breaking the promises to yourself, that's when you start to stay stuck, right?
It's true. And I work with a lot of moms, and it's hard sometimes to have that self-care because you're the caregiver. So to care for yourself is always the harder thing to do. And just I try to drill down, especially to the moms, that when they take better care of themselves, they're going to be better available to take care of others. And they're also going to be better role models for their children, for their friends, for their family, for their spouses.
Yeah.
So you want to think about it's not just for you, it's for so you can be a better person in the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle. Like, I love this interview. And I love how, like, it all came at the end, right? Talking about keeping the promises that you make to yourself and putting your well-being first, because that does make you a better role model. Like, you don't want to be resenting others for giving out to them, but not giving to yourself, or not wanting to have your body resent you for that, right? So
Exactly.
I think this was a really, really, really great interview. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And I know that you have a special gift for our viewers. So if you could share a little bit about that gift with them, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier about the clean eating program that I have. It's a 15-day program that it teaches you how to go from being dirty to being clean as far as your eating and a little bit of lifestyle as well. So I take you each day. We add only one thing you need to do each day. And then the next day you keep that one thing you learned on the first day, and then you build on it with just one more thing. So each day of the program, you're only learning one new thing that you have to keep as a habit. And so the program goes for 15 days. And then at the end of the 15 days, you should know all those things, and they should be getting to be habits in your life, and you should be able to keep it going. But at any time, you can always start over. So I like to do that program like 4 times a year, because life gets in the way and you kind of veer off what you're doing, but you just kind of bring yourself back to center. And if you do that like once a year or twice a year, I do it 4 times a year, just to like kind of reinforce those healthy habits and, help you keep your promises to yourself.
Thank you. That was beautiful. So now you know, everyone, you can download your link below this video, and we'll be talking soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.